Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 385. 385. My name is Leonard Brackett. I'll be your chairman for the first half of, not half, but for the first portion of the program tonight. We'll be dealing with some constitutional matters, and then I hope to turn over the rest of the program to our next senior panelist and senior engineer, Mr. Greg Brackett, to continue being the chairman for the rest of the program later on. But as usual, we're running a few minutes late now, and so I don't want to demur too long. I just want to go ahead and bow my head and say a short prayer as we normally do, and then read a small reading and get busy. I'll just go ahead and bow my head. Divine, loving Father, thou who art the creator of heaven and earth and all that in them are, thou who art our creator as well, into thy hands we commend ourselves, asking that thou would continue to bless us, guide us, protect us, strengthen, and give us health, courage, protection, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Help us tonight with our program that we may be able to deliver a good program that is worthy of our people's time and effort and serve some positive public uh, benefits. We also pray that thou must continue to bless our family members, friends, and loved ones, each and every one of them, wherever they are, as if they were being named by name and numbered. To nourish their hearts, their desires, and even their secret thoughts as well, loving Father. Please let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our mind and the contriteness of our heart be acceptable before thy divine presence, now and always. Please bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership. Please bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership, and the rest of humanity. The rest of trials, travails, and tribulations. Please help us to surmount them all, for we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much for allowing me to indulge in the protocols of our programs. I'll just proceed to read a short paragraph here from, let me see what I open to. Okay, so let's see if we can find something. No, let's go this way. Let's go in the New Testament for a change. Just read some verses from the New Testament. And we'll read from the book of Luke, and we'll take up chapter 13. I read verse 1. There were present at that season some that told him of the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. And Jesus answered, saying, said unto them, surprise ye that those Galileans were sinners above all the Gentiles, because they suffered such things? I tell you, nay, but except ye repent, ye all likewise perish. That's verse 1 to verse 3 of Luke chapter 13. And that is the reading for tonight. In the PCC app, as we have been dealing with recently, I see your next panelist and senior engineer in the background working on something, so I'll just give him a little bit of space and I'll proceed with the part of the program that I'll set up for tonight. And this portion of the program comes from part 3 of the Constitution of Belize. And I'm going to start at section 27. And it speaks about Belizeans uh, whose rights should not be derogated. As we have been speaking earlier about Belize, who is a Belizean, by the way. I think that was the last major topic that we took up. And now that we have gotten that cleared out, at least as of right now, Section 27 says a citizen of Belize by birth or descent who acquires the citizenship of any other country may, if the laws of that other country so permit, and at his being the citizen of Belize one option, may retain his citizenship of Belize. That's what the Constitution says. It doesn't say that if the citizen travels outside of Belize, that automatically, by not being in Belize, that citizen loses his Belizean nationality or his citizenship or the rights to any prerogatives that pertains to the citizenship of Belizeans. But we have had in both mass party jackals who pretend not that pretend that they are not aware of what the Constitution says, even though some of them were lawyers and senior lawyers at that. We have had them write bits and pieces of the Constitution with the idea of modifying it, writing out of existence what the Constitution says that they're not supposed to tamper with, unless the people grant them that permission for that specific objective. That is to say, there are portions of the Constitution that cannot be written out of existence, and if the government wants to transgress or trample on those constitutional rights that are reserved unto the people, that then the government must go to the people with a plebiscite. They shall have a referendum so that the people can say yea or nay. They should not be going to the House of Representatives and passing bogus laws that the Constitution says other laws which are inconsistent with the Constitution are null and void, because they're wasting the people's time. And even when they try to pretend that those laws are valid or viable or constitutional, what in effect they're doing is disabusing the citizens of their rights by going and making, for example, a law that says that Belizeans who leave Belize and go abroad for whatever period of time they want to be abroad, somehow by osmosis or by them declaring it so or pretending to be so, it makes it so. That is to say that those Belizeans forfeit their rights or don't have their rights anymore, because by leaving the country to go wherever they go, for as long as they're out of the country or wherever they are, they don't have the right then to exercise the rights that the Belizeans who never leave the country or who are in the country are allowed to exercise. That is that the Belizeans who never leave the country are then entitled to exercise full Belizean citizenship rights, as well as those Belizeans that are given Belizean citizenship by the government, according to them, can exercise those very same rights of the Belizean citizenship, but not the Belizeans that don't live at home. In other words, you should lose your right to vote because they make no provisions for you to be able to vote in any other place other than being in Belize and being registered at a Belize address, which is contrary to the Constitution. They make those laws, and those are constituted as other law. So they should not be making any other law that contravenes or is inconsistent with the Constitution, and then pretend that those laws trump or supersedes the Constitution. That's a gross violation not only of the Constitution, but of good faith towards the people that they want to be governing. So I'll just continue reading on. That was section 27, and I'll just read it again just for the hell of it, okay? Because it's good for these people to hear what's happening, what the Constitution says, and hopefully know that when those jackals come to you with contravening stuff, that at least you can break them, or you can debate the point with them and point out the errors of their ways. Section 27 of the Constitution of Belize reads as follows: a citizen of Belize by birth or descent who acquires the citizenship of any other country may, if the laws of that other country so permit, and at the citizen of Belize option, he or she may retain his or her citizenship of Belize. Number two, Section 28 reads as follows. Section 28(1), because there are different sections of 28 as well, reads as follows: the National Assembly may make provisions not inconsistent. Remember that word, inconsistent? I'll come back to it again after I finish reading this. Not inconsistent with this part in respect of citizenship, including provisions for, as in paragraph A. Before I read that, I want to go back to the Constitution of Belize, Section 2, subsection 1, which reads as follows: this Constitution is the Constitution of Belize, and if any other law, as I previously mentioned just now, is inconsistent with this Constitution, then that other law, to the extent of its inconsistencies, is void. So then, how can the House of Representatives go and make a law to strip any Belizeans of their constitutional rights? It's impermissible. It is not allowed. The Constitution tells them it's not allowed, but they go ahead anyhow, and who's going to take them to jail or prosecute them? So they go ahead and do all kind of bogus stuff, collect a pay for doing a bastardized job, and turn around and victimize the very citizens of the country with those bastardized, bogus rulings that they make. Instead of them being taken to jail for violating the Constitution, they make a bogus law so that when you, as a citizen, violate that bogus law, you are then subject to what they classify as being in breach of the Constitution and of the laws of the country that they make incorrectly, and then put you through all the ringers. You got to go get a lawyer to fight and defend your rights. You got to pay money that maybe you can't even come up with. So therefore, sometimes if you can't pay the money or you don't have a lawyer, you just suffer the consequences that they want to levy on you incorrectly. But I'll go ahead and read 28 again, because I had to contextualize what I was saying just now to what 28 is now saying as well. 28(1), the National Assembly may make provisions not inconsistent, remember that word? Not inconsistent with this part of the Constitution, that is to say, part 3 of the Constitution. And we're talking now about section 27 and 28, which I just read. And then it's going to give you some categories of classifications or types under paragraph A, for example, which reads as follows: the acquisition of citizenship of Belize by persons who are not eligible or who are no longer eligible to become citizens of Belize under this part. So 28, section 28(1) is telling the House of Assembly, the House of Representatives, that they can make laws to grant citizenship and or nationalization processes or documents or status to people who are not born Belizeans, who are not Belizeans. They may make laws to help them become Belizeans. And those people must follow the prescriptions of the laws that the House of Representatives make to facilitate them becoming Belizean or getting nationality granted to them. But nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the House of Representatives can determine who is a Belizean or who is not, or make any laws to stop a Belizean from being able to exercise or get the privileges accorded to him as per his Belizean citizenship. So that's a conflation when anybody in authority in government pretends otherwise. That is to say, pretends that they can make a law to determine whether or not you get to vote, for example, which is the present and ongoing set of circumstance that has not been cleared up, because they went ahead and make a law to say that certain people can't vote. And the Constitution says they're not supposed to make any such laws. For Belizeans, they can go ahead and make those laws without conflating for others, for people who are not Belizeans, who want to become Belizean. And even at that point, it is also impermissible under constitutional legal practices, as per Section 6 of the Constitution, to say all persons, which is to say Belizeans or not, that resides in and or are within the boundaries of the territorial integrity of Belize, are equal under the law. So even then, they can't discriminate or shouldn't be discriminating against those people that want to become citizen or that want to acquire Belizean nationality. They should be facilitating it so long as they're doing it with rules and regulations that don't violate the Constitution itself and the prescripts of the Constitution. And it's not because they can't do that or they don't know how, or they shouldn't be able to know how to do that and meet compliance, but they're a bunch of rascals. And they do things that are not right, and they want people to applaud them for not doing the right thing and for doing the wrong thing. And when you tell them what they're doing wrong, they get upset. You shouldn't tell them, because they're supposed to be able to do what they want, and nobody should try and tell them otherwise. Whatever is it that they do is the law of the land. We're not a republic. And even in a republic, you have some republics that are countries of law and order, and abide by basic human rights and civility and their own constitutions. I'll read paragraph B. There's two more paragraphs to be read, B and C. Let me read B. Under the same section 28, subsection 1, paragraph B, as in the case of revoking the citizenship of any person referred to in section 26.1 of this Constitution. That is, there's a category or type of individuals referred to in the Constitution under section 26, subsection 1, that if they're going to revoke, for example, like I just said just now, if they give a person citizenship or any legal status in the country, because they grant that legal status, they are empowered to make laws to strip or take away that legal status under certain violations or certain conditions. And that violations and conditions cannot be that onerous to the point where there's no merits in attempting to do so. Okay? I'll read section C, which is the last section in this subsection. So last paragraph. Paragraph C says, under renunciation, if the person renounced by any person of his Belizean citizenship, in other words, only a Belizean can dispossess a Belizean, who is, especially in the case of the born Belizeans, and not the ones that are granted nationality status or Belizean rights. It says that person, as a born Belizean or a Belizean by heredity, can renounce his citizenship, and the government must provide documentations to facilitate that desire to renounce or the right to exercise that privilege to renounce. then that becomes the purview of the legislator to write rules and regulations under which or guidelines that will facilitate that action. But nowhere does it say that they can write a rule or regulation that trumps the Constitution or that allows them to arbitrarily and capriciously, without the persons giving up their citizenship, strip them of it or take it away from them. Nobody has that authority in the country. I'll go a little further. Let me see how many minutes I've already used up quickly. Okay, I'll use up another 10 minutes and then I'll turn over 1 hour to our senior engineer for him to use for the rest of the night. I'm going to go ahead and read uh, subsection 2 of section 28, and it reads as follows. Paragraph A above that I just read of subsection 1 of this section 28 shall not be construed as allowing the National Assembly to make legislations for the acquisition of citizenship of Belize by any person who makes a submittal, but who makes a substantial contribution to the economy and or well-being of Belize, or who has redeemed, no, or who has rendered distinguished service to Belize. Uh, we all can remember there was a point in time when the Constitution was changed to allow for citizenship acquisition by people who pay a certain amount of money or people who bring a certain amount of money into the country and invest it. And some of those things used to be onerous. And as a matter of fact, the current prime minister got up in the House not too long ago and said that he wanted to take back some of those laws, remodel it, and cut off some people from being able to inherit Belizean nationality through their parents, if those parents had acquired that nationality by virtue of having paid for it. They made the laws at the time when the people acquired that nationality under those existing laws. They cannot just arbitrarily and capriciously then go ahead and change the law and say that what was acquired before is not valid anymore. You can use those laws going forward, but you can't go retrospectively. That's impermissible under any kind of international law, much less our local Belizean laws. And it contravenes the Constitution, the intent of the Constitution, because it already tells them, as I read earlier in 27 and 28, that they have permission to make laws to govern the country. But you can't, well, the Constitution and constitutional legal scholars and lawyers and judges and everybody else do never contemplate the idea that you will make a law that is retroactive in its effect. The law must always be made for a current or future occasion, not to be onerous in such a way as to strip somebody of something that they had already earned and they're entitled to in the past. You can say, okay, well, you're not entitled to that, or we're changing the law. You may not be granted that permission or authority anymore under the new or future laws. Nevertheless, I see Greg is in the background. What about another 6 minutes? Let me see.
I'm already on, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Okay. Can
Proceed,
I,
though. Proceed.
but can I stop for a second just so you can do your correct identification, sir? If you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
Good night to the people at home and abroad. Thanking you for tuning in to this 385th episode of Belizean Affairs. I want to welcome you, and I hope you have a good night show tonight. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Uh, I will I will read subsection, or not subsection, section 29 of the Constitution of Belize. Uh, but before I do so, I'd like to ask Greg if you have a comment or two to make in regards to what I was stipulating just now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
I believe that the citizenry of Belize need to read up on the Constitution. That is the only way they will get in tune with what is happening in Belize. Because as you were stipulating as to how some people gain their citizenship years ago, to try to put a retroactive law to stop the siblings of those citizens from getting Belizean nationality to me is ludicrous. When you are taking in immigrants that you are giving citizenship to,
Oh, you're taking in third party, sir, for a matter of fact,
that is
which is
correct.
which is basically selling the birthright. I yield back.
True, we can put it that way. And we are even going further than that when we have people
Terrorists.
from the Caribbean coming in that will be able to go to school, work, open bank accounts, and live as an ordinary Belizean. Sooner or later, they will become a Belizean because given time, they will be allowed to vote and all that, or even vote without people know.
Hmm.
So we really have to watch what is going on, you
And
know.
and Mr. Brackett, even worse than that, sir, they are fostering known declared terrorists on us, the Belizean people. They are fostering serious gang members and criminal individuals, known criminals, on us for a few dollars. I mean, it's crazy what's really happening. And it appears that people are so stressed out and so tired and so taken up in their day to day endeavors to survive or make a living that they don't have the I don't know. I mean, just basic patriotism should cover what I was about to say just now, you know. But I yield back, sir. And after you make your next comment, then I'll try and transition to this last reading and then turn the show back over.
Proceed, sir.
Okay. Okay, I got a couple of minutes more left, so I'll just read up on section 29 of the Constitution of Belize, which says as follows. Yeah, 29, 30. Just a second. Yeah, I got it again. Okay. It reads as follows. Section 29, subsection 1 reads, for the purposes of this part, which is part 3 that we're reading, subject to to section 24 and 25, which are part of part 3, a person born abroad aboard a ship or aircraft registered in Belize or aboard an unregistered ship or aircraft of the government of Belize shall not be deemed to have been born in Belize. But we also have subsection 2, which says any reference in the part, in this part, which is part 3 that we're reading, to the national status of the father of a person at the time of that person's birth shall, in relations to a person born after the death of his father, be construed as a reference to the national status of the father at the time of the father's death, and where that death occurred before the 21st day of September of 1981, which is the date of independence, and the birth occurred on or after the 21st day of September of 1981, the national status that the father would have had if he had not died on the 21st day of September of 1981 shall be deemed to be the person's national status at the time of his birth or her birth. And I'll leave that for tonight as a constitutional review portion. We'll take up what the PCC is contemplating in regards to these sections that I just read when we get another opportunity. For tonight, would like to try and bring some of the current affairs or issues that's going on in the country right now to the forefront. We have been speaking on some of these matters recently on our last program and the programs before that. And I'd like to turn over the chairmanship of tonight's program, whatever is left of it, to our chief engineer and next senior panelist, Mr. Gregory Brackett. I yield, sir. Greg? Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I yield, sir. You're welcome.
Tonight to you, the people at home and abroad, most of you are quite aware that the BTL Corporation is trying to buy over all the rest of network companies. As we are aware that Mr. Vasquez was speaking about this for a period of nearly 7 or 8 months. Well, today was the final day for them to put it to the vote. And tonight, we need to really have an open conversation about what is happening with Belize when it comes to this present government and past PUP government. Because many a night on this virtual platform, I have stated whenever the blue gets into power, all they see is nationalization. And they have a track record of it. We can only go back and look down the road when they were in the government, and we can see the outcome and the aftermath that is left for the Belizean people to pick up. With that, I want to go to the first phase.
He stood, he sat, he laughed, he frowned, he scolded. Chairman Mark Lizarraga held forth in the BTL boardroom today as he tried to sashay through the media's onslaught like a hot knife through butter. And after months of avoiding the issues, the BTL chairman took on all questions in an hour-long press encounter. He says the proposed acquisition of 4 telephone and cable companies is because the market is saturated with competitive excess.
What has happened is that the industry has overcapitalized, has become inefficient as a result of that, really, because it's wasted resources. And who pays for all of this overcapitalization and this duplication of resources? It's the consumer. So the whole move from way back in 2018 was to see how we could consolidate and become more efficient as an industry. And we see revenues really flatlining. The population, I believe, is not exploding.
Sounds like a regulatory problem to us, but Lizarraga says it's an obligation to the public owners.
If we continue along this path of inefficiency in the industry, the people and government of Belize and the workers of Belize through the Social Security Board will not receive the return on investment that they should have in a logical time frame.
And so he was here to explain to the press the commercial logic of buying a struggling phone company and 3 cable companies in 2025.
But because some people in the press have access to information that is not always accurate, we thought it best to try and bring you the real facts today. The process continues, and when that process comes to an end, we would be coming back to you all.
But the problem with this acquisition is the many overt conflicts of interest. So, sir, how do you divorce yourself from the inherent, implicit, intrinsic conflict of interest in the fact that your brother, no discredit to him, is the owner of CTI or NextGen, as also the part owner of Southern Cable Network? And these two companies I expect in this package will net him at least $60 million from the sale. You have been at the forefront of this, and how do you escape that ineluctable conflict that you've been negotiating with your brother on one side and the man who appointed you to the board, his family, Jaime Briceño, on the other side?
Okay. Let me answer you in this way. One of the first things we did when we came to BTL was we put in a conflict of interest policy. As well, you will know, we put in, I shouldn't be telling you this, you know this already. We put in the small shareholder as the chairperson for the internal audit subcommittee of the board. That chairperson reports directly to the board, not to the CEO or not to the chairman as was once the practice. So we've tried to separate that. When the conversations became serious this time around, I declared my potential conflict, the perception of conflict. We have a declaration form that the company has whenever we're in these positions. Directors have used it in the past when they perceived conflict situations. And I'll be honest with you, my position when it comes to the board will be that I will have to recuse myself.
And that recusal didn't sit well with some directors who felt Lizraga left them to hold a very questionable bag. And that board meeting was set to start right after this press conference, where a handful of directors could make decisions that would define the telecom's future of Belize.
We've called a board meeting. We're going to continue with the presentations today, and then the board will decide how it moves forward.
The board.
I go to you first, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, sir.
For your input.
I have a lot to say about this, but I want to piggyback on the last words he said. I'm going to say that the board that he's talking about is a board that was already, from its inception, from when it was put together, with devious basis. That is to say, it was front-loaded with cronies, family members, and all sorts of lackeys. Okay? That would have and should have and could have ended up doing what they're now ending up doing, which is to facilitate the present outcome. They did not entertain the idea of putting anybody to guard that government entity that was not compromised. And therefore, he, the chairman himself, is talking craziness about he was going to put himself aside, because he has conflict of interest issues that he has already declared undocumented, by the way. So what I'm saying is not news to nobody that's been following these procedures and protocols and these bastardized ways of operating a public domain company that answers to the public because of the massive amount of investment that the public have in there. First of all, they were put there to fail the company. And when the other companies that belong to the Prime Minister and his family and Mr. Ashcroft and others realized that the new way to go with the internet services would have undercut their existing situation, and they didn't want to put no new money into the venture, They decided to sell it to us, a push in the bag, so that we pick up the cost from them at more than what it should have been valued at. That is to say, if they were so hard to sell because they realized that the situation was getting so bad because there was so much competition, they would not have actually gone ahead and bought all those equipment that they bought and turn around and allow Smart to end up with some of those equipment for little or nothing, and then they'll turn around and sell it to us for 2 and 3 times what it's really worth or what it could have been valuated for. These guys are taking us out for a bunch of suckers or fools. And now some of the people are waking up, and even some of their one directors are scoffing because, as Mr. Juice said in his presentation just now, some of the very directors feel like they were betrayed, that they were handed a bag of goods, they were canvassed, promised that certain things was going to work out certain kind of way, and that they were going to be effective in their directorship position and their responsibilities, and they would have been able to carry the day if they decided to have a free will in terms of how they would cast their votes and how they would make decisions. They were canvassed and made sure that all those who were appointed, because most of them were appointed by the Prime Minister anyhow. That's his constitutional mandate. But that did not mean that he had to put people who are onerous people in those positions, such as family members, to whom all he has to do is pick up the phone call and talk to them or figure out what's going on, and they could just roll over and play dead and give him whatever he wants out of our public assets. There are laws in our constitution and in our legal frameworks that says that these guys, especially the Prime Minister or any other minister for a matter of fact, should not be profiting at the public trough while being a public employee. It's prohibited. And yet these guys are, man, Mr. Chairman, let me yield up for a little bit because I think I'm getting a little,
Thank
agitated.
you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome.
But to piggyback on what you said, there are laws
Y'all need to go
in
to
our
jail.
constitution to protect BTL. And not only to protect BTL, we have laws that specify that you cannot use your office as an elected person or working for government for enrichment. And this whole thing is in violation of that.
But who is going to take them to court, or who's going to lock them up? Who's going to take them to jail? You know,
And furthermore, the past prime minister said this in the house that this was going to happen. So it's
Mhm.
not that Mr. Briseno didn't know. The present prime minister, he was asked over and over and over, and he said what he usually said, as in the Budnaz incident. He don't get involved, and I will prove him wrong tonight.
Mr. Chairman, when Mr. Barrow made that statement in the House, he was making a statement directing it to him, the very opposition leader at that time, then the same Mr. Briseno, who
Exactly.
is our current prime minister. He was
Right.
telling him what he was going to do, and he predicted it exactly as it's turning out now.
That is
You
correct.
back,
But
sir.
not only that, after the past prime minister reacquired back details, and it was enshrined in the constitution for the people.
Uh-huh.
How can these, and I don't want to call any name, but how can these people try to use the citizen money for private investors? That is ludicrous. You are trying to take what is being paid with money from Social Security, which is the people's money, and money from the government, which again is the people's money. But let's go to the next step, Mr. Brackett.
Yes, sir.
Why is it that you cannot disclose? You've spoken about an NDA. It's about purchasing local companies. It's not companies that are outside in the game competing against BTL for
Morrison, no business that I know of, none, no private company that I know of would enter into negotiations with another private company and have the discourse in the public.
Because
we are
you have $450 million of the government's money, the people's money invested in this company, and you're choosing to move it to a monopoly, and the people are concerned about this. There are no safeguards. Stakeholders, the public sector is calling for there to be legislation in relation to this. Legislation has been put in place before when these types of transactions are being done.
We sit here and we make decisions in the best interest of the company. We don't make national policy. We don't make national policy. We make policy we make decisions that are in the best interest of this company and its shareholders. You're looking at the noise in the market. We are focused on the performance of this company because we have a fiduciary responsibility for the performance of this company. We're looking at a potential opportunity that we believe is in the best interest of everyone.
But your biggest stakeholder is the government, and
the people
in
of
today's
Belize.
press conference, you are saying that your biggest shareholder does not need to be notified.
My biggest shareholder,
that it's just the directors who are going to make this decision.
My biggest shareholder, as all shareholders, represent people on this board. When you send people to the board, those board members, their first responsibility is that the company. It's very clear. When you sit here around this table, your first responsibility is to this company.
His first responsibility is to the person who appointed him and the rest of them, which is what I said in my first preface or comment. They're a bunch of scoundrels, okay? He's sitting there talking to the public now, a bunch of fancy words and pretending to be so contrite and so honest, and he damn well know that he's pushing an agenda to shaft us.
But Mr. Brackett, it comes back to exactly what I keep saying, because he are talking about the company's interest and policies, and policies does not trump the Belizean people constitutional rights, because BTL is enshrined in the Constitution. So
yes,
make it make sense, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but what the gentleman is saying, for example, in another part of the tape, he also stipulated and said he is looking after his interests. They are looking after their interests. What the hell is wrong with them? Does he forget that the majority of those shares are owned by the public, by the Belizean public,
That
to
is
whom he is
correct.
accountable, and he should be answering their question.
33% by Social Security and 49%, I believe, the government.
He's hiding behind that stupid thought that they manufactured to say that it's a public-private company. But there's more public money in there than private money.
Exactly.
Behind no stupid idea that because it's a private, it's also a private joint endeavor or company.
It's a people's company run by private people, and they are trying to take the people's money to run it as a private entity owned by them. That is what
controlled by them, and all the decisions are made by them. They'll put there for that purpose. Now, just when he said about the people that he mentioned about them being put there to serve the interests of the people. Why is it then that he keeps claiming that he can't tell the people what's happening behind the scene? Why can't he answer the questions? And he always come up with this stupid idea that, well, it's a private this and a private that, and no private entity will negotiate with another private entity. It's not a private entity. Stop lying.
Mr. Brackett, to go back in time. Isn't this the same aspect of what happened to the Belize International Airport?
Exactly.
It's the same thing. This is what happened to the Belize International, the Philip Goldson Airport. This is the same way it is being run by private entities.
Look on who the board members are: brothers, cousins, uncles, aunts, wives. You know, the whole bunch of kleptocrats. You know, and they want to come and tell us stupidness now instead of answer the questions and give us the information that we need to know in order to safeguard our own stuff. We must leave them to safeguard it for us while they're telling us exactly what they're doing, which is to act as a private entity in secrecy acts behind the scenes. He can't come out and tell us what's going on. So why the hell is he sitting down representing us then? If we are not supposed to know what they're carrying on with. Worst of all this nonsense that we're just going through should have been gone through many months before. Now that they have already gotten to the point where, if I'm not mistaken, the deal is already done, you know.
No, it's not done. It's not done. They couldn't vote on it. And it's being blocked by four senators. But we will play the tape.
The process hasn't been consummated. The process. They have said that they already, between themselves as the two entities, have concluded as to what is it that the CL is all about. It's just a matter of formalizations of what they have decided. And they waited till the last day. Tomorrow.
But Mr. Brackett, the board is falling apart and they don't have anyone to vote. The two ladies representing Social Security is resigning.
Because they see that
then there's other members that don't. Then you have Minister Mala's wife, she calling sick, don't want to deal with it.
Why? Because you wait. Why? She don't want to deal with it, or she don't want to be caught up in a backlash now? Because she wants to go and sit on the appellate court, okay? That is already promised to her. Because they have a case, that's going to go to the appellate court that the government doesn't want to lose. So they're trying to push her in that position to be there as a backstop. But she don't want this
conflict. That is a conflict of interest.
That's all they do.
You cannot go and sit on the appellate court knowing law, and you know that this bill would be a scheme and unconstitutional. You should know that. If you are going to be
cover their bases at all
as a temporary judge, it will come back as a whiplash.
There were other people that were much more qualified to take up that position, okay? I'm not saying she's not qualified to take up the position. I'm saying that because she's what you call a PEP, a publicly exposed person, a politically
isn't that what they do? What they do is they have people from Social Security sit on the board, so when they need money, they get the vote, and they can get the money.
And they don't have to go on. All they do is
with Mr. Vasquez, that was the same thing.
They pick up the phone and they talk to the right person, and the right person talks to the wrong person, and the wrong person jumps up and just follow through and follow the commands. That the right person spoke up.
Then let's listen to what he says about employees.
Thank you. Smart.
Thank you.
Should they be concerned about their jobs?
The policy.
That's an important question.
I'll answer that question because it is an important question.
Unlike the debt.
The policy. You see, you want to realize that when you go there and spew this type of thing, it impacts people's lives. It creates uncertainty.
The public is going to be impacted.
But let me say this. Marcel, give me a break to finish up. Out of respect for you, give me an opportunity. The company is always looking for opportunities to grow. As we continue to grow towards a more techno-driven company as well, we believe there will be enough opportunities to place a lot more people into the organization. The companies will not disappear overnight. There'll be a long period of transition, right? So that's the best way I can answer it.
When he's saying what he's saying there, whenever you bring a diversification of different companies together to work as one, there's always what you call shedding of redundancies out of those companies. And that is how, at some point or another, they're able to gain excess funding or cash to trickle down to the bottom line. So here's a supposed businessman for so many decades already, should know that what he's saying is a lie. He shouldn't be putting that out there in the public, especially in the presence of the media, because he's thinking that the media don't know. And the young lady is asking him patient questions, okay? Very direct and straightforward questions. And he's trying to fumble around and pretending like, well, he's so aggrieved that the young lady is asking him the questions. Answer the question, that's his job. I yield back, sir.
Thank you. But not only that, Mr. Brackett.
If
you only have one telephone corporation and internet service, you know, if you say anything wrong, if you are a news station, they can cut you off.
Exactly. That's what
you know there will be no competition, so they can raise the price and lower the price as the gas is being done. They can run it the same way the gas is being done to the Belizean people. Raise it when they want, lower it when they want. But what I'm afraid of is this. There will be no other competition. And I know why I'm saying this. Let's say, for instance, I was a businessman and I want to bring in Starlink. The government would ban me. I would not be able to bring in Starlink.
But that is the case
they
right
would
now.
want that company to survive, which would be illegal under the Constitution.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chairman, but that is currently exactly what you just described is the current status. The people from Starlink came in and was trying to see if they could get something work out, and they just dispensed with them. Now, I wouldn't have been upset for what they did in terms of not wanting to work with Starlink or whatever. Why? Because Starlink is an organization that has and control their own satellites. So they can take you up for pennies on the dollar right now and break your back on the back end. Once they gain the monopoly, you have to do without their services and suffer the consequences or pay them whatever fee they declare or desire. So it's laudable not to want to find yourself in that situation. And then why is it then that they're trying to fight hard like hell right now to put themselves in the same situation, but at our dime or at our expense? And they're going to turn around and take the same money that we are going to pay them for those garbage that they're trying to sell us and reinvest it back into our company as private owners.
We also have to look at the fallout, because what if another Belizean decide they want to go into the business? Would they block them?
They shouldn't be able to, at least constitutionally, they shouldn't be able to.
Because you know what will happen here, right?
The Constitution.
In order for BTL to make money, they will try to stop what's up. So people won't be able to call abroad to their loved ones.
Exactly.
Or call anybody.
Exactly. Very well said.
You will have to pay for those calls, as you see what they were already doing. In order to see the news, you had to pay for a package from BTL.
And it's all intended to be done under the guise of sanctioned laws or under the process of legal, criteria. Okay? These guys know what they're trying to do. They're not stupid, but they don't think that anybody else could figure out what is it that they're trying to do. So they get flustered and they get upset when people catch them and point out the errors of their ways or their malignant behavior. I'm glad that the media is on top of them. And I'm glad that all the pressure is coming down on them right now.
You cannot have You cannot have a monopoly though. You have to have competition in order people could get cheaper deals or, regulation. You cannot have a one corporation that is going as a dictatorship, authoritarian rule country. Republica. When you see stuff starting to go this way, as we can see, the bus company is about to go nationalized. You can see them already forcing out some of these companies. Soon those owners of those bus lines will be working for them.
Anything that makes a little money in the country, they want to have their fingers in and control of it. Okay? And they're doing that with the help and the powers of the national government, facilitating them getting that done. While the people are seeing what's happening and have no recourse or no ability to stop it from happening. As a matter of fact, right now, as it were, this same deal that we're talking about right now with Smart and the other, for example, if BTL were to go ahead and take this thing over as it seemed like they're trying to get it done, BTL will then have to turn around and pay money to these foreign companies that Smart and the other internet thing weren't paying no money to. They won't come to us as they won't come to our government for the money. These companies don't sue our government.
They're not talking about their deficit either.
No.
So who's going to pick up the tab for their deficit?
Whoever picks up the tab for whoever buy the company
So
will buy the company and its
it will not be 200 million or 170
far
million.
beyond that. Far beyond that.
400 maybe $450 million.
If they are so onerous currently, without wanting to tell us and let us know what's going on behind the scene, and hiding each and every little piece of the information, so they don't get caught or they don't get blocked in their pathway. When they actually acquire those things, how much more are they going to be more honest with us? They are not. I mean, it's not the first rodeo that we are attending with them. They have participated in a lot of other rodeos in our country that we have seen how they operate. The Intelco problem, the one with the ships, what name that Portugal, the one with the thing out of the key there with
Einstein.
Einstein.
Right. Yeah. And you know what's so cool? The Prime Minister of this country always say he don't get involved in private affairs. But I'll prove them wrong tonight.
He's the main proponent. He's the main proponent.
We'll prove them wrong tonight.
He has to sign the check as Minister of Finance to get this deal go through. And without his acquiescence, it wouldn't go through. If it wasn't his family members that were in business and that business, let's say it was my business that was trying to get this deal. Okay, you think you're gonna give me that deal or anybody else? But he's willing and ready to facilitate and pretend and play the fool like he doesn't know anything about what. Oh, go ask his brother. Go ask this one. Go ask the other one. When all of them report to him. Bunch of jackals.
Let's hear what the leader of the opposition had to say.
I think you can always tell when the Prime Minister is lying. He deflects. This was a matter that was raised in the National Assembly by the United Democratic Party. The Honorable Lee Marchang raised it. We raised it at a press conference that the UDP had recently. We have repeatedly asked questions about this initiative. You know, you hear the rumors in the pipeline, you hear the rumblings, and every time the question has been asked, the Prime Minister deflects. And the more he deflected, the louder the rumors became. I am very doubtful that that deal would be brokered today. I think the public pressure that has come to bear, the fact that I understand now 2 members of the board have resigned as a result of this situation. The fact that they're not able to have a consensus position by the board, at least not today. The fact that the Telecommunication Workers Union have demanded a meeting with management to get disclosure as well. Nobody seemed to have known about this, not even the management of BTL. Something is grossly wrong with that situation.
Should the chairman be forced to resign?
Absolutely, with immediate effect. You cannot come to the public and say, well, I know there's an inherent conflict of interest. I acknowledge that, and I have signed a disclosure to say it's a conflict of interest, and still be the mover and shaker behind a deal that, again, betrays the trust, public trust, and does not serve the interests of this nation.
So there we go, right on the money. This is what is happening, and we need to stop the same thing from happening, because by the time this government is voted out, we will end up like the super bun again. We will end up with more than that.
We're currently more than that, Mr. Chairman.
I know, and I
Just the
don't.
last numbers we did before the year was finished last year, we were at what? $1.7 billion, right? And the super bond, I think, was like a little over $1 billion at that time.
So let's go to the next step, Mr. Brackett.
Go ahead, sir.
Chandra Nisbet Cancino resigned from the BTL Board of Directors. Now, she represented Social Security on that Board of Directors. And so she resigned, and that really is a major setback and an embarrassment for the government. We understand, and we have the updated graphic of the board, so that's one less board member. We understand also that Imogen Habet, who also represents Social Security Board, her resignation may be in the offing or in the wind on its way. Now, they remain members of Social Security's board.
Okay.
Social Security Board had an emergency meeting yesterday, so that board member is gone, and that other board member is in the wind. As I understand it, they feel that critical negotiations and transactions were done or are being done without the proper board involvement and inclusion. And the chair, they believe, or persons on the board believe, certainly Ms. Cancino believed, is my report, the chair refused to disclose documents and agreements to board members. They did not feel comfortable making a decision that will have a long-term effect. This is, let us be clear, $170 million proposed acquisition. It's not a minor.
And it's going to be a lot more than that 170 by the time all the fees and other things are logged in and legal stuff. You know, it's going to be over $200 million. Okay.
But Mr. Brackett, what is so suspicious about this whole scenario? The Prime Minister says he don't know nothing about it, or he's never involved with it.
All those people were appointed by him.
What
Legally,
is
of course.
happening here? You have heard what Jews had to say. You have heard what the leader of the opposition had to say. You have heard what some of the board members are saying. You have heard what some of the ministers say that was not presented to them. You have heard it was a total secrecy, and it was going, hold on a second, Mr. Brackett. It was going to be completed today if everyone had agreed. But
Because
you know why I'm saying this?
next Tuesday, cabinet meeting would have been where they would have put it to cabinet, and by Friday they would have had it voted in the House. They're trying to railroad this thing in a short space
But
of time,
wait a
and nobody can
second.
react.
Isn't this the same game that has been happening to the
Over and over.
opposition and the business senators when they
And
are in the House?
promises
They
made.
get the
And never
documents on the day when the
That's a
present
strategy.
government
That is the
wants to
strategy.
pass it.
Put everybody at a disadvantage of not being able to react and block nothing from happening. They just rush it through.
This is the identical thing. Now, I said before, the Prime Minister has always saying he's not involved in private entity affairs. When he was questioned by Jews, you have to ask my brother, or you have to ask the board, or you have to ask this one and that one. When it was the Budnas incident, even though the report went to his desk, he asked for it. He was saying blatantly after that, when the DPP received the file, he don't get involved in those things.
Because the man is a congenital liar.
But you know what? Let's share the tape.
They don't know anything. It has not gone to cabinet.
Okay.
I know this factually, and I regret to have to report that the Prime Minister, though his family has a vested interest, has personally called to persuade board members to support it. So we have the chairman, whose brother, the chairman, Mark Lizraga, whose brother owns CTI Cable, Next Gen, as it's called. He has been the one massaging the deal. He said he declared his conflict of interest to the board. And then on the other hand, you have the Prime Minister, who has called board members to personally explain to them why it's a good deal and why they should support it. Fine, I am not saying the deal is befouled, but I'm saying as Prime Minister, because of your compromise, because your family companies stand to benefit $45 million from this.
Wow.
You have to maintain more than an arm's length. And that has not happened. The Prime Minister has been actively involved in trying to, I don't want to use the word browbeat, but certainly trying to explain what he feels as the redeeming value of a transaction which will benefit his family directly. So, all this.
Now imagine, but he cannot answer the question because he don't know. Go ahead, Mr. Brackett.
He says he doesn't know because he doesn't want us to know that he knows. But he fails to remember or realize or understand that telephone calls are easily made. He could pick up his phone right now and call just about any one of those board members who are subordinate officers to him and who work and have those positions by virtue of him putting them there. So all he needs to do is pick up a phone and, like Jules said, Jules don't want to use the word browbeating, but that's what you do when you get on the phone with your subordinates and tell them what to do and not do or what your expectations is of them. Despite the fact that you're not supposed to be doing that, because the Prime Minister should not be indulging himself in that type of behavior. Then he will say, but you don't know.
Mr. Brackett.
One last statement. Does he understand?
Let me just say this so you can
go ahead, sir.
get back on it.
Go ahead.
This is legalized conspiracy coming from the highest level of government, who is also using his office for self-enrichment because he has ties in it. Go
but
ahead.
It's illegal. It's illegal for him to do that, and he's continuously doing that, despite the illegality. The bottom line is that he fails to remember that as easy as he can pick up the phone and speak to any one of his subordinate officers them about any other or about any subject matter, okay, including the ones that we're discussing about right now, he fails to remember that in Belize we have electronic systems that could tap into just about anybody's conversation on free BTL systems. And we have people abroad, well, not only just abroad, a lot of other people or agents of other entities in our country that have access to telephone calls that are being made through particular telephones that are being tapped on an ongoing basis. Is it that they don't understand and know about these things or realize or understand that, but they don't think that we're supposed to know that. We are not supposed to be that smart or that cognizant about what the realities are. In fact, I don't believe that the man maybe believe that that is true, that other people could be listening into his conversation and know what he's talking about and know all these things. Yet he has people telling him ahead of time the things that he's compromised with and is going to go and do. And when he does them, he realized that, okay, well, somebody told him before he did it that he was going to go ahead and do it. He wants to know how that person would have known. Methods and sources are not to be disclosed and or be given up. But for the mere fact that he ends up doing exactly what people are telling him he's going to do before he does it means that he's not too bright. Because at least having been told what he's going to do, he should be a bit more cautious, realizing that there are other eyes looking at him. Why do you think he got so scared when they called him at the U.S. Embassy? They didn't have to provide him all the proof that they have. They provided him with enough to scare his butt. That's why when he came out of there, he couldn't even talk. And still he pretend that he don't understand that those things are real. Are you back, sir?
Thank you, sir. Well, as we are discussing,
that's what I wish
why I say this is legalized conspiracy coming from the highest level of our government is because the past prime minister has mentioned this directly to him in the house, telling him this is what was going to happen. And now we are living it, we are seeing it, and even though we have laws that says you cannot use your office for enrichment, that is what is happening. This is what they are doing.
His prosecutors are not going to prosecute him. The Attorney General is not going to grab him and create no files against him. The DPP is not going to do that on her own. The police department is not going to do that on their own. There's nobody. In other words, they feel like they're untouchable. Okay? He forget that when they had the G7 scenario, there were some people who provided him the information, not only him, but the group of the G7 with the information for them to have known what the previous prime minister, his boss at that time, Mr. Musa, was doing. Well, if people were capable back then to do that 20 years ago, doesn't he think that people are a lot more sophisticated and much more capable now to provide him with information about what he is doing himself? You see that dotish?
It's crazy how these people are acting without oversight.
They're drunk with power.
You know? And I will say this. Everything that you see is happening right now within this government, they will try to fulfill it because they know they might not be in for another term. Just looking at what is happening. And doubtfully, honestly, the people can recall them right now, especially the Prime Minister and some of them, they can recall them under a no-confident government because that is exactly what is happening in the country. We have a no confidence record. If you look around and see what is happening, internal policies, external policies cannot be taken care of.
Mr. Chairman, as it is right now, are we not seeing a bunch of roaches running just because the light was turned on? I mean, I'm using a metaphor or a parable,
You
right?
made me smile on that one. I know exactly where you are coming from.
Are we
Reality,
not currently seeing a bunch of roaches running for the dark spots, you know, because the light was turned on? And all of them are getting scared out of their wits right now in terms of their political career. Why? Because they compromised too much. They got all put over a barrel and put in a situation where on their own now they are showing up, coming short. Mr. What's his name? Mr. Mala blocked him off on the political issue and some others, right? At least there was a majority against it. That's why he couldn't go forward with it. Mr. Karim, okay, ending up contradicting him in terms of the Bunna affair issue, okay, and how they were supposed to go about doing it the right way. Of course, Karim was not only just the minister of police, but he also was a lawyer. His father was a lawyer, and the man is knowledgeable, okay, about those issues. But he is not the leader of the party or the leader of the government. So therefore, he has to play a second fiddle. His brother, Karim's brother, Mr. Osha, tell the prime minister where to go jump when he was trying to give him Karim's position. Refused to take it, right? We don't see that kind of thing happening. Even under the Musa administration, we never saw those kind of, as onerous as the Musa administration was.
right.
Then now we have Mr. Mai, right? Where the 2 foot jackass kick throw off a back, right? I mean, and that is not the end of this thing, because we have the whole thing imploding right now in the free zone, and that's the free zone issue because cabinet to have to change again. I stipulated that fact 2 nights ago, that coming on before the ending of this year, cabinet will have to change again. And at the rate it's going, it looks like they don't care if it have to change again, because at the end of this present year, they expect to have everything cleared out of the cupboard, out of the treasury. They don't expect to have a need to hang around to get anything else that's not going to be available to them, because they will have had it all between now and then at the rate they're going.
Mr. Brackett, I hate to say this, and you probably can back me up on this. You know, from since the kidnapping of Mr. Joseph Ryan Budna, the government seems to be falling apart in everything they do. Everything they do is coming to light, and it's coming against them.
Mr. Budna had found out something that they didn't want to have public. Okay? If he didn't find out what he had found out and wasn't longing his tongue and talking ahead of time, he would not have been a threat to none of them. They would have continued tolerating his little, poco tempo reporting thing. But the man came up with some facts and information that was of vital importance, critical, to the point where a member of cabinet was sacked just to save the face of the prime minister. That's how deep this stuff went.
But as I was saying, ever since that incident took place, they never seem to be able to do what is right. Everything they are doing is falling apart. Let's listen to what the leader of the opposition has to say again.
Telecommunications, as you know, affects all sectors of life in this country: education, households, the productive sector, and so it is a national asset that needs to be protected in the public's interest. The problem with this arrangement that we see is that there's no information available, absolutely none. And we insist that there be transparency. We insist that there be full disclosure to the Belizean people. This is a publicly owned company owned by the Belizean people. And we insist that their proper feasibility and viability assessments are done to ensure that we are getting benefit for whatever arrangements this acquisition will bring to the table.
What is the opposition prepared to do? You know, we can send out press releases and hold press conference, but what happens next to ensure that the government, you know, that they look closer at this deal?
Well, I think we made it clear in our press statement this morning that we are prepared to do whatever is lawful, civil disobedience, if that is required. We have been engaged with our civil society partners, with the unions, and we intend to work very closely. Belizean people, as you know, are in an uproar, and they have had enough. This is on the heels, Courtney, of the BL situation. This is on the heels of the cost of living continue to spiral out of control. This is on the heels of $69 million being borrowed for 15 miles of road. This is on the heels of property taxes being increased by 18%, and BL rates increase, and water rates being increased. When is enough enough? Where will the $170 million come from? And who is expected to bear the burden? Who will be saddled with that debt?
4 of the independent senators have written committing to form sort of a unified bloc, you know, as far as their powers lend them to. Will the UDP join them?
As I said before, we are engaged not only with our civil society partners and with the unions, but we're also engaged at the parliamentary level. So definitely our lead senator has been and will continue to liaise with members, his colleagues on that side, to see how best we can have a unified approach to this issue.
So, Chairman, can I quickly? I would think that as a minimum, the Belizean public should expect or hope that the members of cabinet would be there as a vanguard, looking after the interests of the people, while some of these discussions are being had in cabinet, or these proposals, or these issues are being dealt with, and that just like how Mr. Mala could have stood up and gained the support of some of his colleagues to stop us from being taken advantage of with that political issue. Likewise, I'm tempted to believe, or hope to believe, that others inside of cabinet would be the first defense or vanguard of our country, because cabinet is a very powerful entity in our system of governance.
That is correct.
Especially with the supermajority that the Prime Minister has in his legislative group.
Mr. Brackett, you know what I believe? Those people sitting on the board, some of them, don't want to participate because they know if that deal go down the drain like what happened with detail before. They are the ones that don't have any money, like the big boys, that will have to face the people of this nation. They are the ones who will be in the streets and can't get away from these people. And you know how Belizean people are. With that said, sir, I will go to you for the closing.
Uh, can I close the last part of my closing? What I have, like 1 minute, 2 minutes? What is available?
Actually, there is nothing available. We are right
Okay,
there.
I'll just make my closing quickly then. In regards to what I was discussing earlier about the Belizean constitutional rights of citizens, I would hope that our government stop being so onerous and just follow the constitution. Do what they said they was going to do on behalf of the people. Govern with some modicum or some leverage of good governance. Give the people a little hope. They have done enough damage over the last term that they had and the beginning of this current term. Give the people a little reprieve. Work to make life a little better and easier for the people. Passing beyond that, because I'll deal with that again sometime next week, more in detail, like I said. I would just like to say on the last points that we were on just now, that is that the government seems to have a singular motive for existing. That is to hustle, 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 and hustle. Not to get money in the treasury to afford the governance responsibilities, but hustle to get money in the treasury so that they can use, misuse, and abuse, and at the end of the day, accrue to themselves and their cronies. That's not what governance is supposed to be about, much less good governance. And I just want to say thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the last part of the program that you chaired and what you brought to the table for tonight. Belizean Affairs show number 385. And I'm hoping that people will be happy to have spent their valuable time listening to what we had to offer and that they would have gotten some public benefit from our advocacy and discourse. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your program, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rocky.
Abroad.
With that said, I would like to say again to you, the people at home and abroad, thank you for tuning into this 385th edition of Belizean Affairs. And hopefully you will be right back here on Monday night with us again discussing Belizean Affairs. With that said, good night to one and all.